Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Global Women Peace Foundation's Change Her Story, Learn and Lead Education Initiative. Today, you will be learning about a topic called female genital mutilation. This topic can be sensitive and potentially bring up many emotions. During this lesson, we will treat each other with mutual respect and kindness. This lesson is not intended to slander or diminish different cultures and traditional practices, but rather to educate about bodily autonomy, individual rights, and to broaden your understanding of the world and ongoing issues of importance. If you have any further questions, concerns, or need to discuss things privately, you can contact faculty members, guidance counselors, school psychologists, school nurses, or administrators. We encourage you to think critically and create intelligent, culturally sensitive, and respectful conversations inside and outside the classroom. Any behavior that does not align with these expectations will not be tolerated. Today's presentation consists of 4 parts. The 4 parts are: what is FGMC, an anatomy review, at-risk population, and change in action. Part 1. What is FGMC? FGMC stands for female genital mutilation. According to the World Health Organization, FGMC is defined as all procedures that involve partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs, for no medical reason. Before we continue, it is important to discuss the differences in terminology you may hear. Terminology that is correct to use is female genital mutilation / cutting, and cutting. Although these 3 terms are okay, there are differences in when and why each term is used. Female genital mutilation is most often used by activists and those that speak out against the procedure. However, it neglects to consider the traditional basis for the procedure and can be considered an offensive term. Female genital mutilation / cutting is the most correct term for our purposes. FGMC refers to both the human rights violation using the word mutilation as well as including sensitivity to those that practice the tradition by including cutting. Cutting is the term most commonly used by communities that perform the procedure. People within these communities often find the procedure being called mutilation offensive. For our purposes, we consider the use of female circumcision an incorrect term. Female circumcision has the connotation of this procedure being equivalent to male circumcision. Male circumcision is done out of medical necessity to protect against STIs and cancer. FGMC is not medically necessary. Female circumcision fails to take into account the long-term physical and psychological traumas associated with the procedure. You will likely hear the procedure referred to as female circumcision in resources on the topic, although we will only be using the term FGMC. Next, we are going to talk about some statistics it is important for you to know. At least 230 million women and girls living today have experienced FGMC globally. 513 million girls will be cut or are at risk of being cut in the United States each year. Each year, 3 million girls are at risk of FGMC around the world, with the highest prevalence being in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. Lastly, 90% of girls will be cut between infancy and 15 years old. FGMC is a global problem, but is most commonly performed in Africa with 144 million cases occurring in Africa, Asia with 80 million cases occurring in Asia, and the Middle East, with 6 million cases occurring in the Middle East. As you have just learned, 513 million girls are cut or at risk of being cut in the U.S. each year. FGMC can occur in any state but is most common in major cities. 40% of FGMC cases in the U.S. take place in the following 5 cities and surrounding areas: New York City, Washington, D.C., Minneapolis, Los Angeles, and Seattle. Now we are going to play a game called Myth versus Fact, where you guys have to decide if the following statements are true or false. Answer the questions to yourself, and the next slide will give you the answer with an explanation. Is the following statement a myth or a fact? FGMC is religion-based. That is a myth. The truth is, FGMC is not religion-based and is instead a traditional practice that has no basis in any religious scripture. People of all religions undergo FGMC, including Muslims and Christians alike. In recent times, many religious leaders have begun to denounce the practice, stating there is no religious justification. Is the following statement a myth or a fact? FGMC is the same as male circumcision and is performed out of medical necessity. This is a myth. The truth is, although male circumcision has a religious component, it is performed to aid in the health of the male and his future partners by decreasing the risk of urinary tract infections, sexually transmitted infection rates, and penile cancer. Female genital mutilation has absolutely no medical necessity. Is the following statement a myth or a fact? FGMC has no medical necessity and is primarily used to control a woman's bodily autonomy. This is a fact. The truth is, unlike male circumcision, female genital mutilation/cutting has absolutely no medical benefits. It rather causes medical problems a woman would not ordinarily have experienced without the procedure, including difficulty with urination, infection, increased maternal and infant death, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and difficulty getting pregnant. FGMC is used to control a woman's sexuality and is illegal in many parts of the world, including in the United States, where FGMC in any form is considered child abuse and is punishable by both fines and jail time. Is the following statement a myth or a fact? FGMC is a foreign problem and does not occur in the United States or to any girl living in the United States. This is a myth. The truth is, FGMC occurs globally, including in the United States, where approximately 500,000 girls will experience or are at risk of experiencing FGMC. FGMC in the United States happens on U.S. soil and in the form of vacation cutting. On the last myth, you heard a term called vacation cutting. Does anyone know what vacation cutting is? Why does vacation cutting occur? Vacation cutting refers to taking a female child out of the country or across state lines to have FGMC performed. Girls are most commonly taken to their parents' country of origin, where the procedure is still widely accepted. Now you might be thinking, why is it called vacation cutting? It doesn't sound like a fun vacation, does it? Vacation cutting is most likely to take place when girls are on breaks or vacation from school. They are often told they are going on vacation to see family that live in their parents' country of origin. Depending on the type of FGMC, it can take girls anywhere from a couple weeks to months to fully heal from FGMC. At times, girls have to have their legs bound together for a period of time in order to heal. Next, we are going to discuss FGMC, state, federal, and international laws. To start, we are going to discuss FGMC laws in Virginia State. As of 2024, in Virginia State alone, 30,830 women and girls have been affected by FGMC. Virginia has 3 FGMC laws, including Virginia Code 8.01 to 42.5, 18.2 to 51.7, and Virginia Code 22.1 to 207.1. Pause the video and read Virginia Code 18.2 to 51.7. Keeping in mind a Class 2 felony conviction in Virginia State carries a jail sentence of 20 years to life and/or a fine of up to $100,000. Pause the video to read Virginia Code 8.01 to 42.5. Lastly, pause the video and read Virginia Code 22.1 to 207.1. Now that you just reviewed the law, we are going to summarize what each law actually means. Law 18.2 to 51.7 can be summarized in 3 parts. Part 1. Any form of FGM/C is illegal, and the person who performs the procedure can be charged with a Class 2 felony. Part 2. Any parent or guardian that allows FGM/C or performs the procedure themselves can be charged with a Class 2 felony. And Part 3. Any doctor that performs FGM/C, except in the rare cases where it is medically needed, can be held criminally liable. Law 8.1 to 42.5 refers to civil law and the right for FGMC survivor to sue any person that was involved in the procedure, including, but not limited to, the person did the cutting and/or parent/guardians aware of the cutting. This right has a statute of limitation of 10 years after the procedure or once the girl turns 18. Lastly, Law 22.1 to 207.1. One requires all public Virginia schools include FGMC education in their family life courses. This is why you are learning this lesson now. You are all a part of history. In the United States, at least 513,000 women and girls have been affected by FGMC. The United States has two important federal laws on FGMC, including Law 18 of U.S. Code 116 and the Stop FGM Act of 2020. In addition, only 41 states have their own laws on FGMC. Pause the video and read Law 18 of U.S. Code 116. In summary, Law 18 of U.S. Code 116 declared FGMC is a form of child abuse and a federal crime as of 1996. Law 18 of U.S. Code 116 was amended in 2013 to likewise make vacation cutting a federal crime. The Stop FGM Act of 2020 was signed into law in 2021 and strengthened the existing federal FGM law by increasing penalties for FGMC and increasing time of imprisonment under the federal law and the potential for deportation. Alive today, there are at least 230 million women and girls that have been affected by FGMC. Out of 94 countries where FGMC is practiced, 59 have established laws against FGMC. As you learned, we as a society are moving in the right direction to save women and girls from undue pain and trauma, but more still needs to be done. Now we are going to move to part 2 of this lesson, reviewing female anatomy and relating it to the types of FGMC, the traditional significance of FGMC, and gender inequality. We are going to start by talking about female external genitalia. The female external genitalia is called the vulva and consists of 4 parts. The 4 parts of the vulva include the vagina, the urethra, the labia, and the clitoris. The vagina is one of the 3 holes of the female genitals. The vagina connects the uterus to the outside of the body. The vagina is where a girl experiences menstruation and childbirth from. The urethra is the second hole of the female genitals and is much smaller than the vagina. The urethra connects the bladder to the outside. This is where a girl urinates from. The labia is the skin folds on either side of the vagina. There are 2 parts to the labia. The labia majora, which is the outermost folds of the vagina, and the labia minora, which is the innermost folds of the vagina. The clitoris is a small bundle of nerves located at the top of the vulva. The clitoris is known as the pleasure spot. It is important to note that no 2 vulvas look the same. Each girl's vulva looks different, and this is totally normal. Although, if you are concerned that your vulva does not look or feel normal, you should talk to your doctor. Next, we are going to discuss female internal organs. Female internal organs include the uterus, the fallopian tubes, the ovaries, the cervix, and the vagina. The uterus is a hollow, pear-shaped organ located in a woman's pelvic region. The uterus is where a baby grows. The fallopian tubes are located on either side of the uterus, connecting the ovaries to the uterus. The ovaries are 2 circular organs on either side of the fallopian tubes. The ovaries are where eggs are stored. The ovaries are responsible for producing the female sex hormones estrogen and progesterone. The cervix is located at the bottom of the uterus. The cervix connects the uterus and the vagina. The cervix expands and contracts to allow fluids such as menstrual blood to leave the body. The vagina is both an internal and external female organ. The vagina is the part of the body where intercourse occurs and where things exit the body such as menstrual blood and a baby. There are 4 types of FGMC. Each type of FGMC is different, but some types cause more physical trauma than the others. All forms of FGMC is abuse and has lasting physical and psychological impacts. Type 1 FGMC is the clitoridectomy. Clitoridectomy is defined as the partial or total removal of the clitoris. Type 2 FGMC is excision. Excision involves the partial or total removal of the clitoris and the labia minora. Excision may or may not involve removal of the labia majora. Type 3 FGMC is called infibulation. Infibulation is the sealing of the vaginal opening by cutting the labia minora and/or labia majora and stitching together the skin, only leaving a small hole for urination and menstruation. Infibulation may or may not include partial or total removal of the clitoris. Infibulation usually requires girls' legs to be bound together for 10 to 14 days to allow scar tissue to form. Type 4 FGMC is defined as all other procedures that harm the vulva, including but not limited to burning, pricking, and piercing. As we discussed earlier, FGMC has no religious backing and is not discussed in any religious scripture. Therefore, FGMC is a traditional practice, not a religious or cultural practice. We must understand the traditional significance of FGMC so we can work to end it once and for all. The 5 main reasons given for why FGMC is performed are rite of passage, identity, cleanliness, marriageability, and social norms. The significance of rite of passage is FGMC is seen as a girl's transition into womanhood and is often celebrated, making it difficult for a child to understand what has truly happened. The significance of identity is FGMC is a way many people, predominantly immigrant populations, hold on to their cultural identity, believing that continuing the practice symbolizes their and their daughters belonging to a group. The significance of cleanliness is many cultures view female external genitalia as ugly and dirty, and therefore, by cutting it, the woman becomes pure and clean, both literally and figuratively. The significance of marriageability is some cultures believe a cut woman is the only woman that is fit for marriage, although many men have come out to say they prefer marrying an uncut woman. Lastly, the significance of social norms is FGMC is a practice that has occurred in many cultures for centuries. Therefore, there is pressure for families to have their daughters cut. In addition, there is fear of retribution if a person is to speak out openly against the practice, therefore contributing to its persistence today. The root cause of FGMC is control. FGMC controls the sexuality of girls and women by making it difficult for a woman to engage in and enjoy sex, as well as the idea that she needs to be mutilated to serve a man. The real reason for FGMC is the desire of society to control a girl's body and sexuality. FGMC intends to keep women from becoming hypersexual and remaining a virgin until marriage. There is no evidence that FGMC prevents women from having sex until marriage, further making the practice barbaric, cruel, and outdated. Gender inequality plays a crucial role in the persistence of this practice. In many cultures, women are seen as objects to serve men, not as equal beings with the same basic human rights. Gender inequality can be observed in many ways, including the fact that 1 in 3 women around the world will experience some degree of physical or sexual violence. According to the UN, on average, women make 20% less than men worldwide. This is called the gender pay gap. On average, it takes women 4.5 years longer to receive a diagnosis for metabolic disorders. 1/3 of girls in the world's poorest countries have never attended school, and 61% will not continue on to a secondary education. FGMC is a form of gender-based violence. FGMC is a human rights violation. There are many physical and emotional consequences associated with FGMC. In addition, we are going to go over warning signs and how to identify a child that might be at risk. You might be thinking, how do we determine who is at the highest risk for FGMC? Well, age is a main risk factor. 90% of girls will be cut between infancy and 15 years old. The reason FGMC is done so young is because girls have not grown up enough to fully understand what is happening and are likely unaware they have the right to say no. Furthermore, there are demographic factors that group girls into higher risk categories. Populations most at risk due to the perpetuation of the traditional norms of FGMC include girls from Africa, girls from the Middle East, girls from Asia, and immigrant communities from these areas. Other factors that place girls in higher risk groups include girls living in marginalized communities where parents are not educated on the harms of the practice, and girls born into families that are accepting of the procedure. It is important to note that it is not often the objective of parents to hurt their child, but likely it is a tradition that has occurred to their mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother alike. Parents continue to practice FGMC because it is what they know, and they believe they are doing what is best for their child. It is through education and advocacy that parents can begin to break the cycle of abuse. Even if causing their daughter physical and psychological trauma was not their goal, it is the reality of FGMC. Remember, just because a girl or her family is from a practicing region does not mean they are a survivor of the procedure or that their family practices the procedure. Be sure to remain respectful and culturally sensitive when discussing communities at risk and never assume. Now, how can you recognize a child is at risk or a survivor of FGMC? There is not a definitive answer or criteria, although there are signs that may signal a problem. It can be difficult to recognize a child at risk, but these are some potential statements that may signal FGMC. A child's family is planning on taking them to their country of origin for an extended period of time where FGMC is practiced, and the child is under 15 years old. A child verbalizes that they will be going away and undergoing a special ceremony while they are away. These are some signs that may suggest a child is a survivor. A child spends an unusual amount of time using the bathroom. A child mentions pain between her legs. A child does not want to change clothes for gym in front of other students. A child misses an extensive amount of school and, upon return, acts withdrawn or anxious. A child verbalizes that they have something they are not allowed to talk about. A child asks for you to help them. Individually, many of these bullets do not necessarily signal a problem. It is important to always inquire more about statements a child makes and assess the situation as you go. Short-term physical consequences of FGM include severe pain and discomfort, hemorrhage, infection, physical trauma, and death. Long-term physical consequences of FGMC include difficulty urinating, increased risk of maternal and infant mortality, difficulty getting pregnant, painful menstruation, and death. Short-term emotional consequences of FGMC include emotional trauma, shock, and loss of trust in family and community. Depending on the person and experience, each of these could also be long-term. Long-term consequences of FGMC include post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and depression, insomnia, difficulty being intimate, body dysmorphia, and loss of bodily autonomy. These are visual examples of some tools used to perform the procedure. In many parts of Africa, these tools are not kept sterilized, and the same tool may be used from one girl to the other during procedures. Girls are not usually given anesthetic and are usually awake during the procedure. In the last section of this lesson, you will be watching a documentary to see real-life examples of FGMC and change in action. There are many ways you can get involved and help eradicate FGMC. Some ways you can help are: speak up. One of the simplest things you can do to make a difference is to use your voice. Knowledge is power. Talk to those around you and help educate them about the reality of FGMC. You can volunteer. Global Woman Peace Foundation has a high school internship program. You can also join the Walk to End FGM. In just a short time, you will be graduating high school and becoming global citizens. You will have to choose what matters to you and what you stand for. You have the power to make a difference if you choose. Now is your time to decide who you will be and the impact you will have.
One day, I heard drumming in our compound. People were dancing, they had painted their faces white, and they were singing. I had never heard the song before, and I was curious. When I came closer to the circle, I saw my sister sitting blindfolded in the middle with other girls. Then someone grabbed me and put me next to her. We were carried to the outskirts of Bacau, where there was a ruthless shark. Then one by one, they started taking each girl inside, and after several minutes of screaming, they carried her back outside. What was going on behind the wall? When my turn came, 4 people held me down, 1 on each limb. Auntie Mena made 3 big cuts. I was 8 years old, and I knew something had been removed. They put herbs on my wounds, and we wore loose gowns throughout the slow healing process. Some people justify FGMC by saying it is part of Islam, but there are ethnic groups who are Muslims and don't cut their girls. My mother is Wolof, and they do not practice FGM. Women who are not cut are called Solima, uncut. They are considered promiscuous. I started getting infections, but I didn't understand why. Years later, when my leg needed to be amputated, doctors needed to put a catheter in me and couldn't. Only then did I find out that what had happened to me was type 3 FGMC. In order to put the catheter in, they had to perform defibrillation to open me up. I felt like I was less than, both physically and mentally. I struggled with depression. I was diagnosed with vaginismus, and when I got married, I had to go through pelvic floor therapy. I didn't feel like a woman at all. But gradually, I learned I could heal some of my pain. I met with doctors and therapists and slowly changed how I viewed my body. In 2017, I got a clitoral restoration surgery. I started advocating more for an end to FGMC. Today, I still work on my healing, but many of my youngest cousins have been spared.
Na Mariama, Mariama, na Mariama, Sibo Mariama, din dole baloba sina bambay na o senyoro, penke senyoro, penke wakay kam so buludala nanding wo e senyoro. Na Mariama, Mariama, na Mariama, Sibo Mariama, din dole baloba sina bambay na o senyoro.
I was 21 years old when I discovered what FGMC is all about. It was by complete chance. I went from being a confident advocate for human rights to realizing that I too was a survivor of a violation I'd known nothing about. I was 8 years old, dragged into a clinic wearing maroon shorts and a beige tank top, a color combination I now avoid, the colors of flesh and blood. My mother, an educated and successful woman, kept silent, swayed by the myth that cutting facilitates easier childbirth, probably comforting herself that it was okay because everybody does it. She also kept silent while a bearded doctor with a big belly and sharp blade cut away an intimate part of my young body with no anesthesia. Since I started asking more questions, I've been told all sorts of strange things, like, it's what our ancestors did. We didn't know any other way. It makes for cleaner periods, and it keeps girls safe from being promiscuous. Really? Today, my father and most of my family supports my work against FGC, yet he refuses to discuss his role in my violation. I don't think I'll ever truly know the fullness of what I've been deprived of. I've struggled with so much shame. Do I deserve feelings of pleasure? What about my sexuality? What will happen if I decide to birth children? With every new intimate experience, I'm confronted with deeper worries and discomforts. Do I orgasm the way nature intended? Is this how it's supposed to feel? Will there always be an overwhelming sense that part of my sexual identity was taken away from me? I often ask my female friends to share stories so I can try to understand what's different between us. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. I tell myself all the time, I deserved protection, I deserve pleasure. I deserve to feel intimacy, love, and self-acceptance as the woman I choose to be today. My body is mine to understand, mine to explore, and definitely mine to celebrate. Some people, including my peers, tell me I should just forget about what happened. Don't overthink it, they say. Stop focusing on FGMC and be happy. Forget about it? While young girls across the world, and many known to me, are still subjected to this, justifying it with family ignorance, culture, religion, traditions. No, I will not forget about it. That is not who I am, and this is not how this ends.
Why did this question and many others strike a chord with me to my very soul? Is it because I've known about FGM but never really put faces to the numbers? Is it because I come from a tribe in Kenya that used to cut girls? The practice of FGM in my tribe, Meru, is shrouded in secrecy, and not much was mentioned to me growing up. It is only now in my adult life that the veil has been uncovered for me. Are the voices of my ancestors who silently suffered now urging me, do something, do something? I've spoken with women in a refugee resettlement hub in Clarkston, Georgia. Many of them made connections for the very first time between what was done to them as little girls and the medical and mental health challenges they face today. I can still hear their voices in the quiet moments of my days. You mean it doesn't have to hurt when I pee? You mean I'm supposed to have 2 holes down there? Can I have sex with my husband and be pain-free? Now that I've shared my story, how can I get rid of the pain in my head? My husband left me because I did not enjoy sex with him. I did not know that when I urinate, it's not supposed to trickle. My doctor asked me what happened down there. I did not know something was wrong with me. I'm afraid my husband will make our daughters go through this. Why does my whole body hurt? My period is too painful. I thought I had difficulty with childbirth because I did something wrong. Can you help me get fixed down there? Is there a doctor who can open me back up? I need to be free and powerful. There's one question that all of them asked. How can I get help? In that safe space where they shared their stories, a fire was lit inside of me, an urgency to act. I am all the ancestors I pour libation to. They are no dead people. We just shed ourselves. I'm all of them together, calling for an end to FGM.